RLHF is powerful, but honestly, it is a pain to run. You train a whole separate reward model. Then you run unstable reinforcement learning against it, juggling several models at once along with a pile of finicky hyperparameters. So a natural question arises. What if we could skip all of that machinery and tune the model on human preferences directly? A Stanford paper showed that you can, with a method called direct preference optimization, or DPO. It is strikingly simple, remarkably stable, and it took the field by storm. Let's see how it pulls off the trick. First, let's put DPO right next to the RLHF it replaces. RLHF is a multi-stage machine. You train a reward model, then run PPO reinforcement learning against it, keeping several models in memory at once, and tuning delicate hyperparameters that can easily destabilize the entire run. It is powerful, but it is genuinely hard to get right. DPO collapses all of that into one direct step. There is no separate reward model and no reinforcement learning loop, just the language model trained straight on preference pairs with a simple loss. Fewer moving parts, far more stability, and much less compute to reach comparable quality. For a small team without a fleet of GPUs, that difference is the difference between being able to align a model and not. So how does DPO align a model without any of that machinery? Follow the idea one piece at a time. It starts with the same data as RLHF, preference pairs. For each prompt, we have a chosen response that a human preferred and a rejected one they did not. No reward model needed, just these labeled comparisons sitting ready to learn from. Then we apply a simple loss. It looks almost like ordinary supervised training, a classification-style objective that nudges the model to raise the probability of the chosen response and lower the probability of the rejected one. But we measure all of this relative to a frozen reference model, a snapshot of where we started. That reference plays exactly the role the KL penalty did in RLHF, keeping the model from drifting too far as it shifts toward the preferred answers. The result is a model aligned to human preferences, with no reward model and no reinforcement learning anywhere in sight. A clever piece of mathematics showed the RLHF objective can be rewritten so the optimal policy has a closed-form link to the reward, which means the two approaches are quietly optimizing for the very same thing. Strip it back, and 3 ideas define DPO. The first is that it optimizes directly on preferred versus rejected pairs. The preference data itself becomes the training signal, with no intermediate model standing between the data and each update. The second is what it removes. There is no reward model to train and no reinforcement learning loop to stabilize, which strips away most of the moving parts and failure modes that make RLHF such a chore. The third is the payoff. It is simpler and far more stable than RLHF, needs less compute, and still reaches comparable quality, which is why it was adopted so fast and became a default for many open models. It does have trade-offs. It needs good paired data and can be prone to some failure modes. And whether it fully matches online RLHF at the frontier is still actively studied. All right, let's lock in the essentials. DPO, direct preference optimization, aligns a model directly on preferred versus rejected pairs with a simple loss, skipping the reward model and RL loop of RLHF. The method comes from a Stanford paper that rewrote the RLHF objective, so the optimal policy relates in closed form to the reward, making direct optimization possible. In practice, it looks like supervised training, nudging the model toward chosen responses and away from rejected ones, measured against a frozen reference model in place of the KL term. It is simpler, stabler, and cheaper than RLHF at comparable quality, which is why it spreads so fast, spawning variants like IPO, KTO, and ORPO. Want the whole alignment landscape made clear? That is exactly what we do, plainly, over at standarity.com. See you inside.